Thank you, Naomi, so much. And thank you, everyone at Stories on Stage. I'm really honored and excited and very nervous to be here, especially talking in front of a bunch of people. The story that you're going to hear tonight is the first story I ever wrote. I wrote it about 8 or 9 years ago when I was an undergraduate. I went to college very late. The idea from the story came actually from an acting class I was taking. In the acting class, the actors were paired with filmmaking students for a final project at the end of the year, and the director I was paired with, he wanted to make a Western. And so myself and another actor and the director were out location scouting at a cemetery. And it was a really small cemetery, and we were just walking among the headstones, and this man approached us, and he was clearly the groundskeeper. And he looked very suspicious and asked if he could help us, and the director explained why we were there, that we were thinking about using it for a student film. And the guy kind of relaxed, and we were like, "Why are you so nervous?" And he said, "Well, you know, some people have been coming by and chipping pieces of metal off of the old tombstones to sell for scrap." And the director and the other actor that I was with, they were like, "Oh my God, what kind of monster could do such a thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, totally." But the thing was, I knew exactly what kind of person would do that, because someone very close to me a few years prior had been addicted to methamphetamine. And so I'm sitting there like commiserating with them about this awful thing, while somebody I love quite a bit would definitely have been capable of the same thing. He was capable of stealing from anybody at that time in his life. And so about a year later, I was taking a creative writing class and had to write a story. And so I thought about that, and this is the story you're going to hear tonight. Thank you all. I hope you all enjoy it. And I guess that's it.
All right. This is Metal by Rob Faus. Red and I are walking among the headstones of San Carlos Cemetery toward the Motherlode, the mausoleum. Lining its marble walls are small 5x7-inch nickel plaques etched with people's names and dates of birth and death. Next to those are copper vases for mourners to place flowers. Nickel and copper are worth more right now than they've ever been. $8 a pound for nickel and $4 for copper. There are at least a few £100 worth of each, and we get half of the market price to split between us. It's been a hot summer. The grass has dried brown and crunches under our feet like it's covered in a layer of frost. We both have backpacks with chisels, hammers, and pillowcases. I have a set of bolt cutters, and Red has wire cutters and a lockpit set. We stole a van from a rental car company to haul our take. It might take a few trips from the mausoleum to the van to get everything out. My old partner was Jackie. His real name was Robinson. His first or his last, I don't remember. We were stripping wire out of the abandoned barracks at Fort Ord. It was secluded, and there wasn't a guard, or if there was, we never saw one. We'd pulled a few 100 feet of copper when he got electrocuted. His teeth were clenched so tight I thought they would shatter or turn to mush from the heat. Smoke was seeping through the gaps. I took off and left what we'd already pulled. It was bare wire, too, no plastic to remove, so it was worth more. I wanted to take it with me, but the cops would have noticed it was gone and begun looking for an accomplice. It happened on a Saturday night, and no one found him until Monday morning. His hands had fused around the wire, and he was cooked black from the inside out. So, I don't pull wire anymore. Cemeteries are safer, because everyone in them is already dead. Red has been up for the last 3 days. I've been up for a day and a half. I try not to stay awake for any longer than 3 days at a time, but Red likes to push as long as he can. He seems to want to burrow into himself like some Ouroboros chigger. He's seeing shadow people, which means every once in a while in his peripheral vision, he thinks he sees the shadow of something moving. If a person stays up for too long, the shadows turn into full-blown hallucinations. People will think they see men dressed in black suits coming out of the toilet or humanoid lizards on the news. That's rude, Red says. They shouldn't just dump dirt on someone else's grave like that. Red is looking at a large dirt mound, the edges of a blue tarp sticking out from underneath it, beside an open, freshly dug grave. I can't tell if he's joking or not. I hope he is. What are they supposed to do with it? I ask. That's not the point, he says, and we keep walking. Red's name isn't Red either. It's Stan or John, but I can't remember which. Maybe it's Stan Johnson or John Stanton. He's called Red because he has red hair on his face, but the hair on his head is dark brown. There's a line that separates the colors on his sideburns, but he doesn't have facial hair right now. I don't know how he managed to shave after being up for as long as he has without cutting the shit out of himself. He must have used an electric. When my aunt died, she had a concrete sarcophagus made to put her casket in, he says. They sealed it airtight before they put the dirt on top. She said she didn't want bugs and worms eating her. That sounds expensive. Why not just get cremated? We're walking in between where the bodies are likely buried, like we're avoiding cracks in a sidewalk. Yeah, I don't know. My uncle was rich. Where does he live? We could rob his house, I'm thinking. Back east. Never mind. Red says he wonders if her body decomposed or if it just shrank like a mummy's since she had been embalmed and all of the blood had been drained from her. Sealed in stone and formaldehyde, even in death, we fear death. He talks about blood. He calls it a blue liquid that spills out of us red, and wonders aloud if it could be extracted from a person and remain blue. I wish he would be quiet. Maybe if it were taken out in space, he says. Like if a person were in some docking station in a spaceship and got sucked out and cut themselves, maybe then the blood would stay blue because there would be no atmosphere. I imagine floating in space, drifting away from a shuttle with a blanket of stars surrounding me. A rush of panic comes over me like the fear of open water. I try to focus on the ship to keep a sense of security, but it turns into one of the white dots and disappears. It's a very vivid image. I've been up too long. Blood isn't blue, I say, but Red doesn't hear me. I wonder if it's possible to extract the iron from blood. There's a slight whistle when he says it's possible because Red's front teeth are starting to rot. It's funny. Iron is the only metallic element in our bodies, and it's worthless. Unless you count fillings. I feel like saying this to Red, but don't. The mausoleum, with its dirt-stained sandstone, is straight ahead. Beside it is the groundskeeper's house, and all of the lights are off. There's a wrought iron gate with a padlock in front of a huge solid wood doors leading into the tomb. The gate is between two fat pillars that make the building look like a Masonic temple. We could take the entire gate, and it would be worth nothing but sweat. I snap the padlock off with the bolt cutters. We swing the gate open, and it makes the sound only an iron gate makes, a high-pitched whine escaping it like a vapor. The lock on the door is easy to pick. We both hold our breath for the sound of an alarm, but it doesn't come. I exhale and close the gate and door behind us. Our footsteps echo off the 20-foot walls. The roof is arching, stained glass, and the moon shines through, lighting the interior. There are hundreds of plaques, with vases next to each one, the moonlight reflecting off of them. We move to a wall, and side by side start chiseling the nameplates off. The marble tile they're drilled into cracks, and small pieces fall to the ground. I read the names on each before removing it to see if I'll recognize someone. I think blood is red because red is the color of alarm, Red says. I miss Jackie. He didn't want to be pals, just get the job done. He knew how to shut up and work. Actually, I think red is the color of alarm because of blood, I say. Yeah, that makes sense. He hammers at a plate, and it goes clinking to the floor. I was thinking that maybe we perceive the change in color as a mental warning. Blood isn't blue, it just looks blue through our skin. I know, he says. It was just like contemplating. I think it's an interesting concept. I think he means to say postulating, but I don't correct him. The copper vases are easier to remove. They just unscrew out of the wall, but they take more time. They make a grinding sound when I turn them out of the marble. "Hey, don't take that one," Red says as I'm about to unscrew a vase. "Why not?" "There are flowers in it. Someone visits that one." There are only about a dozen vases in the room with flowers. The rest have been forgotten. I start chiseling plates again. My hands vibrate from the hammering. "Blood has this strange, unmatched viscosity too," Red says. "There really isn't anything else like it. It's probably because blood is coagulating. It's like yogurt. It's constantly getting thicker until it crusts." We work our way down the first long wall and fill up 2 pillowcases each. I'm sweating and itchy. Michael Robinson. The year of death is last year, and the year of birth makes him old enough to be Jackie. I wonder if it's him, but only for a second. It isn't likely. I can smell him burning, like the smell of teeth being drilled in a dentist's office. I place the chisel under the edge, hammer it off in one motion, pick it up, and place it in the sack. I stop reading the names. We each have 3 sacks full by now and decide to take them back to the van. The sacks are heavy, my hands are sweaty, and it's difficult to keep a grip as I push the front door open. One of the sacks slips and falls to the ground in a loud crash. Red and I wait, our eyes fixed on the house until we're sure no lights have turned on. I pick the bag back up, and we walk toward the headstones. "What was that?" Red says. "What? Where?" My muscles tense up. I'm ready to run the second it's necessary. "Sorry, it was nothing. I thought I saw someone." His eyes are dilated and picking up every movement. It isn't that they're playing tricks on him. It's that his adrenaline is ramped up to the point that he is, or we are, in a fight or flight state. For thousands of years, people have been taking drugs for spiritual and recreational purposes. Incans took ayahuasca, Native Americans took peyote, mescaline, and mushrooms, and Freud took cocaine, Hitler and JFK methamphetamine. Some of these people believe these substances took them into an alternate planes of reality. But what the drugs did was release chemicals that were already inside of them, taking them to where they were already capable of going. They saw nothing other than what was already in their minds. "Look at that," I say. On top of a 5-foot-tall gravestone is a Celtic Cross, which is just like a regular cross, but it has a circle around where the T intersects. The circle makes it look like the crosshairs on a sniper scope, but I think it's meant to represent the sun. The arms and head flare out at the end and look like the tails of fish. The cross itself is 3 feet in length, and it is thick, solid nickel. "That must weigh 100 pounds, Red says. "If it does, it's worth $400 at least." The base is cemented into the headstone, in front of which is a vase of wilting flowers I want to believe was left by a delivery service. Red stands up on tiptoe, places the chisel against the base, and hammers. The sound echoes through the cemetery. "Keep it fucking down." He sets down the tools and takes off the 3 layers he always wears, not because it's cold, but to hide his emaciation. The skin on his back looks like yellow wax shot with buckshot from the crank sores. He wraps the base with the shirts to muffle the sound. It takes maybe 10 or 15 minutes to get it out, but it seems to take longer as I look to make sure no one's around. After he frees the cross from its pedestal, both of us have to get it down. I tie the ends of the pillowcases together through the center ring. "You want me to help get it on your back?" I ask. "I got it off the thing," he says, breathing heavy. "You carry it." Red helps me hoist it up before putting his shirts back on. The edge of the cross digs into my shoulder blade. "How much do you think?" he asks. "I don't know. Could be 60, could be 150. Plus, the weight of the sacks made it impossible to tell. The sweat is running in my eyes and stinging, and my knees feel like they'll buckle. It is heavy, but I'm glad it's heavy. "Do you think the roots of the trees grow into the coffins?" Red asks, "and get nutrients from the bodies?" There are several trees throughout the graveyard, erupting parabolic from the ground. They look like cauliflower clouds. They're symmetrical from a distance and beautiful because they don't apologize for their ugly traits. Their twisting branches are each driven to capture their own light from the sun. Is that the cops? There are flashing lights, red and blue, next to the van, still far enough away that they don't see us. Behind us are the beams of heavy black flashlights sweeping from side to side like spotlights in an evening prison yard during a jailbreak. We crouch low. "What do we do?" Red asks. "There." The open grave we passed is a few feet away. Red sets his sacks next to it, helps me lower my load into the ground, and then jumps in. I pass him the sacks one by one. The flashlights are getting closer, but the dirt mound and the trunk of a sycamore tree shield us. I can hear radio static and squawking, indecipherable voices. We lower the cross in, and I'm sure we're making too much noise as Red steps on the plates, clanking in the bags. The flashlights are bound to start bouncing as the police hear us and run towards the noise, but they don't somehow. I climb into the hole and lie down flat next to Red, and neither of us makes a sound. The sprawling branches of the deciduous tree, maybe it's an elm, a shading tree, stretch out over the hole and block the light of the moon from illuminating us. We're in darkness so complete it's as if the shadows have been poured into the pit and we're submerged in them, holding our breath. A man appears, graveside. He's standing at the edge like he's contemplating jumping in, and he is staring straight at us. He doesn't have a flashlight, and I can't make out his face. Maybe he can't make us out, but he isn't moving, and he must see. I stay silent. I'm waiting for him to call out to the others. Hide and seek is over, my heart chasing itself down. He turns and, without a word, walks away. I can't tell if I hear his footsteps over my grinding teeth. Was he a cop? Who? That guy. Do you think he just didn't see us? The tree is shifting above me, swaying. It's like looking out of a porthole. What guy? Red asks. You didn't see? I've had my eyes closed. Red says like a child under the covers, hiding from a monster. We wait for what seems like hours. No one else comes to the hole. I don't hear anything except for the sound the leaves make as they brush one another in the wind. I don't know where the cops went, but I'm happy I haven't seen anyone else. My heart settles down. Do you think they towed the van? Red asks. If they did, we won't be able to haul this stuff out of here. I stand up, and the sacks piled under me make it so I'm tall enough to look over the lip of the grave. It's still there. I sit back down. They could be waiting for us to come back to it. I don't know if we should take the sacks and the cross out or leave them and make a run for it. I wonder if they were even real or just a hallucination, some stolen idea. Red, what's your name? You don't know my name? I don't answer. I just wait for him to come to the realization that he doesn't know mine either. It's Arch. His head jerks sideways like he sees something again. He starts chewing on his thumbnail. Arch what? He looks back at me. Nothing. Stanton, he says, and spits a piece of nail into the dirt. So I was half right. I say that sounds like a made-up name. He tells me his father loved cowboy movies. I don't know which movie he means, and I don't ask him to clarify. Why do you want to know? He says. What's the word? I close my eyes to think, but it won't come out, so I let the thought fade. Maybe I'll remember the word later. Should we go? He asks. I don't want to make that call any more than he does. Whichever of us makes the decision to leave is responsible if we're caught. But one of us has to decide because eventually a casket will come to take our place. Yeah, we should, but give me a minute. Posterity, is that the word? That doesn't seem right. We both stand and check our surroundings. Red is waiting for me to make a move. I look out toward the van. The gravestones are shining. Past them are tall trees, an overpass streaked with morning commuter headlights, and the buildings of the city sleeping. The bags shift under my feet, and I catch myself on the edge of the hole. I look down at them and back up as the light from the sun begins to bleach out the stars. The end.